Welcome to another video. This time I want to talk about the true meaning of Romans 13. And also a little more about the red horse, to talk more about the red horse of Revelation. In case you did not know, the red horse is also mentioned in the book of Zechariah. It gives you more details about who this rider is, about who is on the red horse. And if you look at my lesson on Revelation, I have already clarified and verified that it is Esau, Edom, but we are going to go deeper into that and verify it so that there is no doubt. As to not beat around the bush, the book of Romans 13 is going to be used in these last days to convince people that the sin mentioned in Revelation 13, which is the mark, the mark, to convince people that this technology is going to be injected underneath your skin, a type of technology so that you can buy and sell. It will be used by your priest or bishop or your father of any religion, because all religions are controlled by Satan. Later I will go deeper into who is Satan. I have already mentioned it many times in my videos, but we are going to clarify it more thoroughly. They are going to use Romans 13 to convince you that, look here in Romans 13 it says that you have to obey the government, you can't rebel. But actually Romans 13, if you have understanding what it is saying, is that the world revolves around prophetic ages. For example, during the time the book was written, the Romans were reigning. The Romans then, as far as the age, they were in the age of the Romans, and that is it. I'm going to read the chapter, but I'm explaining it. The only thing it is saying is that you cannot rebel against the kingdom that God put in place, the Romans at that time. If you rebel, that kingdom was ordained and placed there by God himself, and it was given enough force to destroy someone who tries to revolt and overthrow this kingdom, because only God takes down kingdoms. The time comes when the clock has run out and out they go. There is no other way. For example, in history, if you know a bit of history, what happened? As Revelation 17 says, before the Romans there were 5 kingdoms that had fallen. There were the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the 6th were the Romans. And after the Romans, according to prophecies in the same chapter 17 of Revelation and in other chapters, it says that a 7th kingdom is coming. But this 7th kingdom also, according to Daniel 2, this 7th kingdom is divided. They are 10 kingdoms, and at the same time they are one. And in the book of Daniel they are mentioned as the 10 toes. In Daniel 2 and in Daniel 7 they are mentioned as the 10 horns, and in Revelation they are mentioned as the 10 horns also. But Daniel 7 says that one more horn comes out of those 10 horns, that is, from those 10 European colonial empires that you can see here in the image of these 10 empires, that practically since they controlled the world they never left power, so it seems, but these 10 empires never left it. In one way or another they control the whole world, and they control China. China is just a cover. They control in one way or another all of Latin America. These kingdoms, these 10 kingdoms, and the United States never stopped controlling the world. And well, in Daniel 7, it says that one more horn comes out of these 10 horns, which is the United States. And also the book of Revelation says that, in 17 it says that after these, that is, right now, the powers are one way or another are those who control the world are these 10 European empires and the United States. The others only appear, but in reality they do not control anything. China is controlled by the Europeans and by the United States. although you may not believe it. In the book of Revelation, it says that these 10 horns that it is named the beast it gave power to. The harlot, the USA, in a certain way more than the United States, it is the elite of Edom it gave power to them. This happened after the Second World War. Something like this happened where nations gave the elite and the USA all the power, not just those 10 but the countries controlled by these 10 empires, that are part of the United Nations. According to them, all are under the United Nations, but the United Nations is controlled by the world elite, so it is a trick. Same thing. Practically the USA, but the USA and these empires among the strongest, USA and England and Russia. As it says in the 4th book of Esdras chapter 11 and chapter 12 that they are the 3 heads of the eagle. And after this comes the end, the fall of Edom, as it says in the 2nd book of Esdras. Esau, Edom is the end of the world, and we Israelites are the beginning of it that follows. Today, with the chaos we are experiencing right now, it is already the beginning of the new world order, but the only thing that fits prophetically is chaos. Chaos is prophetic. What is not prophetic is the new world order. The new world order will not be achieved before the new world order is achieved. The Messiah will return, and he will save part of the Israelites, the ones who believe in him, and he will destroy the empires in the world, and he will form the kingdom of the Israelites here on earth. That is the fall of Edom, that is, the new world order. Only chaos fits into the prophecy, but in itself the new world order is not going to happen. The only thing that is going to happen is chaos. And what they are going to make mandatory, the mark, the identification, that 060606, which is like a technology that they inject to be able to buy and sell the mark. You know, that is prophecy. But what is not prophecy is that they accomplish the new world order. They will not be able to achieve it. And after the fall of Edom, comes the kingdom of the Israelites forever. And one thing that is interesting is that in the Gulf of Aqaba, which is where the Israelites crossed, not in the Gulf of Suez like some clowns say, goofy GMS, there in the Gulf of Aqaba, King Solomon installed 2 pillars on each side of the crossing, and in the pillars it mentions practically something very similar to Revelation 17, where he mentions the fallen empires and then the last ruler, Edom. He mentions Mizraim, which is a word for Egypt, and he wrote it in ancient Hebrew, the archaic Hebrew, which is also known as Phoenician, because the Phoenicians used our alphabet and language because they were our vassals. That is, they wrote it in ancient Hebrew, and there in ancient Hebrew he put Mizraim, which is Egypt, and then he wrote Edom and death at the end. That is, he did a type of timeline of the beginning of the empires that reigned over us, and the end is going to be Edom, and Edom is going to bring a lot of death. As 4th books of Esdras say 6:9, that Edom is the end of the world and Jacob the beginning of the one that follows. Now to read Romans 13 of the Queen Valera of the year 1960. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of God, the powers that be are ordained of God. I will continue reading, but before I continue I will read other scriptures so that you can see in the context that this verse is speaking. It is not saying to obey the government blindly like an asshole. No. He's not talking about that. He's talking about the age, in that case, the age of the Romans. And accept it, pay your taxes, be good citizens, and don't break God's law. And right now I'm going to explain it with the verses from other books of the Bible. In Colossians 1:16 reads, "For by him were all things created, that are in heaven, and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones, or dominions, or principalities, or powers, all things were created by him, and for him." And if you have listened to my videos, you know that beginning with the Greeks, Edom began to reign, which Edom is the biblical devil and Satan. Then how can it be that the Bible says that you support an empire of Satan? Then very simple. Isaiah 45 verse 5, "I am Yahweh, and there is none else, there is no God beside me, I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun, and from the west, that there is none beside me. I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I form the light, and create darkness. I make peace, and create evil. I Yahweh do all these things, good and bad." In Isaiah 46 verse 9 says, "Remember the former things of old. For I am God, and there is none else, I am God, and there is none like me." Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, "My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." And as you can see in the context that is mentioned is that it is prophecy, and not in the sense that you obey everything they tell you, like injecting a technology under your skin to be able to buy and sell, that it clearly tells you not to do it in chapter 13, 14 and 16 of Revelation. So it is not referring to that. It simply is saying that God Yahweh tells you everything ahead of time, and he tells you what kingdom comes in, and what kingdom goes out. That is simply in the context what he is saying is that it is prophecy. Do not resist prophecy. I will read until verse 7 Romans 13, which is what is relevant to what these churches are possibly going to use, be it from any denomination, any religion. They are going to use it to control you in these latter days, so that you put on that technology and do certain medical procedures so that you can buy and sell. They are going to use it for that. And Romans 13 does not mean that. I am just going to read up to verse 7 and then I am going to explain it further. Romans 13 verse 2, "Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation," obviously because the empire in power has the power to crush any rebellion. Romans 13 and 3. "For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same." This verse, if you analyze it, means that the empires, even if they are from the evil race of the Edomites, even if they belong to them, if you behave well and you are a good citizen, this empire is not going to hurt you. But if you are, we are talking about the Israelites, right? Of the Latino and Black indigenous people. If you are an Israelite and you do what is good, then you will not have many problems, even if it is the empire of the evil one. Even if you live in the middle of a bunch of Caucasians, if you do what is good and you behave well, then nothing will happen to you, because at the end of the day, the empires since the time of the Assyrians, the empires have been used by God to punish us Israelites. And especially those who behave badly. For that reason, those who do any foolish thing will have a hard time. Being Israelites, being indigenous, being Latino, being Black, you do anything stupid in this world, you will have a hard time, go to jail, they even kill you. If you are a Chinese or you are a Caucasian, nothing will happen, they get off scot-free. For us, yes, that is what this verse means. Romans 13:4 For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain, the sword of Esau who was given the blessing of the sword in Genesis 27 because he is a servant of God. And speaking of that, how can it be that Edom, who is the biblical devil and Satan, how can he be a servant of God? I am going to talk more about that when I finish reading up to verse 7, because Edom, the Edomites, the white race, although they are the evil ones, they are the devil, they are Satan, they are assholes. They are like that because that is how God made them. They do not know how to be any other way, and in the end they are servants of God. And what is more, in Zechariah, it is something that I read recently and it surprised me in Zechariah and in the book of Job, and it says that not only are they a servant of God but also an angel. He is one of the angels of God. Of the left hand, of course. We are going to go deeper now, as I was reading here. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. This verse, the Messiah himself here in Romans 13:6, even if you don't believe it, the Messiah himself said to pay your taxes, because that way the empire is maintained and the empire was sent by God. The taxes, of course, should be more fair, but there are many ways to pay less taxes. For us as Israelites, as we have the curses, it is not convenient for us. Use the safest way to pay your taxes in any country, especially if you live in Europe or the US. Pay your taxes in the safest way. Use a well-known company. Pay them, it's God's law, because if you don't, they will take even your underwear. And here Romans 13 verse 7, render therefore to all their dues. Tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. If you understand this verse here, Romans 13 humiliates you, because when I was younger I was a bit proud. I always thought, why am I going to wrinkle the leather, lower my head? Being Mexican, I am proud to be Mexican. Why am I going to kiss ass? It does not mean that you kiss ass, but you are not the same as those who reign in the world right now. You have to have a little respect for the boss. Almost all of us work for other races. But you have to have a little respect for superiors, but don't be a kiss ass. In reality, in my youth I was rather proud and rebellious, and it was always like a battle. As the gringos say, it is like swimming against the current. It is very difficult to live like this. Being a rebel, don't do it. I have lived a life of a rebel all my life, and it has been a very difficult life. If you realize the context in which Romans 13 speaks is that the empires and the people that reign, the race that reigns, is prophecy, and it does not mean that you obey everything. It says simply that you accept the kingdom that is reigning and that you behave well, and that you pay your taxes, and from there it is something else as far as it pertains to your health, to your body, and violating the laws of God. Then the limits of these empires come in. If they cross the line, then you cannot accept it, as in the time of Antiochus, who went too far, and the true Jews, who are the blacks who lived in Israel, which at the time did not accept it. And that is correct, they did not accept. They started a war, the war of the Maccabees, and the war of the Maccabees, it is not that the war was bad, because the war was written in Daniel 11. It was prophecy. What was wrong is that some wanted to destroy the Greek Empire, and the Greek Empire was foretold and written that they would reign until the Romans arrived. The bad thing was not that they made a war and that they rebelled against the decrees of Antiochus, for example, eating pig, violating the laws of God. This was good. The bad thing was that some wanted to completely overthrow the Greeks, and those were the ones who failed at the end. Those are the ones who suffered the most, the ones who died and failed. They should have stayed put with just being able to follow their traditions and their laws and not try to overthrow the Greek Empire, because that is death, and that is what happened to many of the Maccabean leaders. As I tell you, empires have their limits. If they cross the line, then you cannot accept it, and right now we are going to read one of the limits that is prophesied, that this kingdom of Esau, Edom, the devil and Satan, the white race, however you want to say it, at the same time a servant of God, an angel of God, on the left hand, is going to go too far, and you cannot accept it. Right now we are going to read it. Revelation 13 verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, talking about this empire, Esau's empire, Edom, the Edomites, the white race, the devil, Satan, etc. This empire at a worldwide level will make it mandatory that all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and he is talking about some type of injection of a technology that he later describes, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, that if you already know what the beast is, if you have not seen my video of Revelation, the beast basically consists of the 10 horns, or the 10 toes, as Daniel 2 says, which are the 10 European empires of the times of the colonies and the USA. That is the beast. And here it says here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, because these are people, they are men and they are people. And his number is 666, which, as I explained in another video, this has two meanings. The first is that the time of 666, the 7th century before Christ, was when Esau began to have power in Rome and Greece. In the land of Russia, the Scythians, was when the Edomites began to rise, and at the same time the 6th is the 6th empire that reigned, that was Rome, and returned under the 10 European empires, that it would be the second time 6, and it returned again under the USA. This would be the third time 6. That what that means now we are going to see, where it prohibits you from taking this technology, this mark. So Romans 13 does not mean that you obey, that they do a medical procedure, that they inject you with something, that they inject a technology. No. Here clearly in Revelation 14 tells you in verse 9, where it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead, or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb, who is the Messiah, Yahweh Shai. And here, if you are obviously talking about the day of judgment, when the nuclear war begins, fire and brimstone would be that war, right? The missiles and nuclear war. In Revelation 16 verse 2 it says as follows, and the first went, and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore, that is a cancer upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image, that is, apart from the fact that they are going to die in the nuclear war. They are going to get cancer and pus is going to come out and they are going to die, but they are going to suffer before they die with cancer, and this has already been found in animals that have this technology in them, a microchip, and the animal gets cancer, it fills up with pus, as I previously mentioned that in Romans 13 says that this empire, the empire that rules right now, the Edomites, the white race at that time of the apostles was the Romans. They were also Edomites, the white race who were servants of God. As I said, how could it be that Satan, the devil of the white race, how could it be that they are servants of God? As I told you that in Zechariah and Revelation and in Job, not only does it call them servants of God, he calls them angels of God of the left hand, and I want to go into that now about the red horse. That in Spanish there are several names for red, like bay, and the Bible uses these names, so we are going to go into detail as the Bible says that this red horse, who are the Edomites, the white race, Satan, are angels of God. That also surprised me. In Revelation 6 verse 4 it says, "And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another." Talking about the white race, Esau, Edom, "and there was given unto him a great sword," is talking about Genesis 27 in verse 39 to 40, when Esau was crying like a bitch that they didn't give him a blessing of an eternal kingdom when he sold his blessing, because he didn't even believe in those things. He doesn't believe in blessings, he lives in the moment. At that moment he was hungry and sold his blessing. He changed it for a lentil soup or whatever. And since they are giving the blessings, then it hit him, what if, maybe it's true, and if one day my brother's descendants rule the world and I don't, then the guy started wailing like a hoe, and they gave him a consolation blessing, and the blessing they gave him is, by your sword you will live. He's going to live in the fatness of the earth, that is, he's going to live well. The Vato lives well since the time of the colonies until now. The gringos lives well, and they are going to live by the sword, says in Genesis 27 verse 40. And by your sword you will live. And as I tell you, that fits within Revelation 6 verse 4 of the red horse. And as I tell you, I was surprised by what I did in Ezekiel, no Zacharias. In Zechariah in chapter 1 and chapter 6 talk about this horse also. They are not exactly the same, but yes, they have the same idea, that the horses are a type of judgment against the Israelites, and the red horse is exactly the same as in Revelation. And in Zechariah 6, let's start with Zechariah 6. In Zechariah 6 verse 7 tells you the order that God gave to this angel, who actually it is an angel that tells you in Job the order that God gave to the Edomites, and we are going to read Zechariah 6:7. Zechariah 6 verse 7, "And the bay went forth, red horses, and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth." That is the order that God gave him. Go, as it says in Job. Right now I am going to read it in Job. His order was, go fuck shit up, remove peace, Rev 6:4, in all the earth. If there is peace, go fuck shit up, remove peace, Rev 6:4. That is the order that God gave to the gringos Edomites. And the bay went forth, and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth. And he said, get you hence, walk to and fro through the earth. So they walked to and fro through the earth. That was the order that was given to them. Now in Zechariah 1 verse 10 and 11 he says. And it is talking about Esau on the red horse, Zechariah 1 verse 8, and the man that stood among the myrtle trees, which if you look at what myrtle trees are, those are trees that invade our trees that nobody wants. A lot of people try to remove from their land because they are like weeds. They expand, they fluff up, they fuck shit up like the gringos. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they, whom the Lord hath sent to walk to and fro through the earth. That is the order that God gave the gringos. Go fuck shit up, remove the peace. Rev 6:4, on earth that is their job, was to go fuck shit up, remove peace, throughout the earth. And they answered the angel of the Lord. As I said, here he calls them angel, and also in Job he calls them angel. They are angels of the left hand, these bastards. And they answered the angel of Yahweh that stood among the myrtle trees, and said, We have walked to and fro through the earth, and, behold, all the earth sitteth still, and is at rest. And if you read the rest, their job is to fuck shit up, remove peace. Rev 6:4. The book of Job supports what it says here in Zechariah and Job 1:7 and Yahweh. You know what I will read. Job 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh. And Satan came also among them. And Yahweh said unto Satan, the white race, What are you doing? Guy, whence comest thou? Well, it doesn't say what are you doing, Guy, it says whence comest thou. Then Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Here he says it differently, but the original Hebrew language says exactly the same thing that Zechariah says, and the same thing what Zechariah says verse 1 of chapter 1. And chapter 6 says the same thing. How does it say? In Zechariah it says that they walk to and fro through the earth, that Yahweh ordered them to walk to and fro through the earth. So it says in Zechariah. In Zechariah 6, to walk to and fro through the earth, but in Job here as it is written in the Reina Valera. The red horse of Satan is talking about the same thing, and here in Yahweh said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahweh, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. This says exactly the same thing as walk to and fro through the earth. Here they changed it a bit, so you don't make the connection, but it is the same word, they are not different words. And now here in Job 2 and verse 2. And Yahweh said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered Yahweh, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. That is his job, to remove the peace. And this fits with Isaiah 56 in verse 11. Yet, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough. And they are shepherds that cannot understand. Then even though God at the same time calls them angel and he created them, at the same time they piss you off. Sometimes he calls them greedy dogs. In the book of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 5 explains it better, where it says, Yet also, because he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And just as it is up to us to accept that they reign now, it is up to them to accept that their end is about to come, and that we are going to reign the world. The Israelites, who are the native/indigenous, blacks and Latinos. According to the 4th of Esdras, it says like this in 4 Esdras chapter 6 verse 6, Then did I consider these things, And they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac. When Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.